Half a block. You get there in the back. That's normal in Provo.
Yeah.
So
My body.
you get that. Well, welcome. It's good to have you. We help our Zoom listeners if we just talk loudly when we're in this room. It actually helps without reducing echoing. But we have microphones for inside the room if we really need them. I'm Matt Wheelwright. I'm the chair of the District 1 board. Welcome. We're happy to have you here. We have a few more than normal, which is exciting. We do have a lot to get to, so we're going to get rolling. We're going to start with a prayer. Robert Hammond, who's on the district board, will offer that. And then Lynn Sorensen will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. So, Robert.
Father in heaven, we are grateful to have this opportunity to be together and discuss issues that are important to our neighborhoods. We're grateful, Father, for this city that we live in and the opportunities it provides for us to raise our families and to have a place to live that we enjoy. We're grateful for this opportunity tonight to be together and pray that we'll be able to share information and learn about the issues and be able to go home and make good decisions. We're grateful for all that we've been given, and we say this in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Oh, the embedded pedagogue, here she is. We learned to pledge allegiance in kindergarten when we had tiny breaths and could only learn a few words at a time. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. No, we're no longer in kindergarten. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. So will you please join me in that pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I did want to thank Rachel Breen, as always, for all of her hard work she does, including bringing us some very yummy food. So hopefully you saw that. And, yeah, and it's from our district, so that's kind of cool. And we do have some city council members. Thank you for joining us. Appreciate you being here and all the city staff. So we're going to keep on rolling here. If you have an agenda, you see that we have a few department items. We always hit those first as they can't stay all night, nor do we all want to be here all night. But we're going to start actually with the water rates, some education and discussion. And that looks like Gordon Haight and
I'm just the intro.
You're just the intro.
Yeah.
Well, welcome.
Thank you. So my name is Malia. I'm a policy analyst in the council office. I come to these meetings with Rachel a lot, but she's the head honcho here. So I'm just here to introduce the water rates item. So council has been discussing this for just over a year now about the idea of increasing water rates if we move to a 3-tier system. If they do increase water rates, what's that percentage going to look like? What the rate increases would look like at different tiers? Explored a bunch of different options through the year-long discussion. The council just this last work meeting earlier this month voted in a work meeting to come to a night meeting. So the night meeting next week on Tuesday, the council will be voting on the proposition they have settled on. And the council has decided to go with a 3-tier system. And as of right now, a 5% rate increase for the next year. That would start in September of this year. So after the summer, after big water in 6 months. So that's what's on the table for this coming Tuesday. And Gordon is here. He's our director of public works. He's just going to explain infrastructure and why we even were talking about water rates and the structure of water rates. But any questions or concerns about like the tiers or if we should have a bigger increase or a lower increase or anything like that, those are policy decisions and we want to direct those to the council because those are the people that are going to be making the final decision on those. How we ended up at 3 tiers and 5% actually came from the council and through their feedback. We want to make sure that we can have comments and questions here, but like also make sure we email the council and come to the meeting next week, so that way we get a full discussion. So,
Were you asking for questions about the tier
No.
now?
not asking for questions, and if we do have questions about rate or tiers, like I said, those are questions for the council, not necessarily for Gordon, because they're policy decisions, so Gordon can't answer for the council. So, but he is here and he has the most knowledge on the infrastructure, so I'll turn time over to him.
Thank you. I'll try to talk loud so that our blind people can hear us. So like what was said, is that we can talk a lot about what the money will be used for, what we're looking at. And what we have is a map that's specifically of your district, so you know how the money will be spent where you specifically live. And we can create maps like this all over the city. But what you're seeing is map pipe life. Manufacturer recommended, is about 60 to 80 years tops. After that period of time, you start having issues with your pipes. And some of those things include, the biggest thing for us in the city is I&I. That's infiltration of water into our system. The reason that's such a big deal is that in the sewer treatment plant, we have to process all that water. And the more water that comes through, the higher the cost. And we end up, it reduces the capacity of the line. We've seen in some of these older lines, you can almost have 50% of the water coming down your pipe. It's just groundwater that has infiltrated because the pipes get old and cracked. So it's kind of creates a significant problem. The other thing that takes place is when these pipes were put in, I'm just pointing to the red pipes and some of the yellow pipes, they were clay pipes. And they are great until they're not. And what happens is we find that a lot of roots can find their way into these pipes and they start breaking down and they end up clogging and they'll back up into people's basements and in their house. And it is a huge cost to the city. We find that there's quite a number of these a year that take place. And so we're extremely busy running up and down, trying to make sure all the roots are out of these pipes. We're making sure there's no plugs and trying to make sure that we keep that clean. So anyway, that's kind of the big deal for the funding. I don't know if you want to do a
Just one question, with all this infiltration, you're talking about this sort of thing. I hope that's not the culinary water that comes through our taps. Are you talking about the sewage system?
No, so this is water that goes into the sewer system, not leaking out into our water system. Our water system doesn't take infiltration because it's under pressure. So it's always, there'll be places that it leaks, but it doesn't infiltrate into your culinary system. What the problem is, our sewer pipes are taking in groundwater that's in the ground, plus mostly just groundwater. So when we have 3 years ago when we had the really wet year, our groundwater was extremely saturated. The sewer costs went up extraordinarily. We were bringing in, it wasn't that people were just charging more water down the sewer lines. It was just, we were bringing a lot in, and that is a huge cost in this problem.
So are you using the rate increase to pay for sewer?
So I have been in meetings all day about the sewer pipe, and I had just gotten sidetracked. I'm only supposed to be talking about water systems. So I am looking at you all looking at me confused, and I'm the one that's confused. So let me just tell you, on June 21st, we're having the grand open of our sewer treatment plant. Right? So please come to that, because then this confusion was worth it. Everybody's invited. The contractor's bringing food trucks. It's going to be super. You get tours, and everything I said now will make sense. So I'm backing off. We do not need a rate increase for our sewer pipes. We're doing fine. Water pipes. These are our water pipes, and our water pipes, they were put in. And the problem with these is because some of the soils that these were put in, these were all steel or cast iron. They end up hitting. I should have brought a couple of those with me. And as they pit, they create holes and they start leaking. And so we're finding that these old pipes, we are treating quite a bit of water that's just leaking into the groundwater. They eventually find their way to a surface and we end up damaging our roads. If things get severe, we're seeing that it ruptures and goes into somebody's house, and it's a lot of problems. So these red pipes are really critical that we keep replacing. You guys have the most critical red pipe in the whole city. This main one that comes through, it services almost the entire city. It brings in the springs, the spring water from the canyon. It's over 100 years old. And it was put in by the pioneers. And let me tell you, it is a fantastic piece of pipe. But it's not always going to be that way. And we've had to do a few patches and repairs on it. And what happens is, if that pipe ever goes out, that's where we serve almost our complete winter service. So we don't have to run our wells. We're not taking water out of the reservoirs or any location. We're just pulling it strictly from the springs. And so you guys are the gateway to the water for the entire city. So if that's something you want to remind your residents in your neighborhood, that's the case. And that's a critical lifeline for the city. And so these lines, we need to get them replaced. Again, 2 reasons. We have our fire folks here. One is the fire code is how much water is supposed to be going down the line. A lot of these pipes are undersized, of 6-inch pipes or smaller. And in order to get the flow that we need to really meet code, we need to get a replacement with a minimum of an 8-inch line, many times 10-inch line, just so that we're getting adequate flows to your houses. The problem we have is if they're too small and they can't produce the water, we'll end up collapsing the pipes, and then there's a lot more cost and damage that we end up doing. So if you do emergency repairs, it's far more costly than doing planned repairs when we can do a bunch of work when we're looking at sewer lines and storm drain. And so that's specifically with water. I'm not going to talk anymore about sewer, but that's the water lines. So.
The red lines will be replaced this year.
Pardon?
The red lines will be replaced this year?
No, this is over a 60 to 80 years. We're going to replace all these red lines.
Okay.
It's very costly. So we right now have about an 80-year plan to replace all those. And that's going to work. It's just that we have to be very judicious and make sure that we're on the lines first.
You have like a 10-year summary plan that we can see so we know what neighborhoods you're starting with?
So we have more of a 2 or 3 year plan. I can show you that. The reason for that is I'd like to work this out with all the other utilities. So water lines coming in, or if there's power or natural gas, then we can be agile and electrical sort of leverage it. We're planning for some water tanks that need to be replaced as well, some other kinds of other infrastructure other than pipes. So those are all things that are happening with our water system. One thing that I'll just give real briefly that should give you a lot of comfort. The state just went through a 20-year drought. The city is really dependent on springs and wells. We went through that 20-year drought, and it took 20 years, and we just started seeing the drawdown on our wells. So that tells you how effective that system is. So it probably took many, many years to get that water level there. And so what we're looking at now is we're taking the excess water in the winter, and we're building a facility to pump this up into the canyons to drain it into our aquifer so that we can quickly recharge our aquifer. So that if we can get back to the balance we were 20 years ago, in the next 5 or 10 years, we now have another 20-year reservoir to help the city through the next 20-year drought. So that's a critical thing. So when you look at Deer Creek or other reservoirs, those are about 1 year from being empty, a 2.5 year, and they're done. Yes, we can go without rain for a very significant amount of time before once they're full again. So that's right now our ASR project. You'll hear a lot about it. So city has been really forward thinking and putting together a lot of great plans that will allow us to grow and to meet water demands even through a very difficult climate situation. So that answered, made more questions in the
Thanks, Gordon.
There was one.
I just have a question. So, and some of this is price related, some of it's not. But I assume there's multiple parts to the rate increase. So some of it's just prices are going up, so you need to increase rates. And some part might be maybe we're behind on some of the, we haven't been replacing pipes as often as we would like to, maybe because there's not enough funds for that. Do you know how much of the price increase is just due to normal inflation and how much is maybe to get back on track for replacing?
So from my perspective, Public Works, you never give us enough money to replace them all tomorrow. But so I'm not going to recommend that. What we have seen since the last 3 or 4 years, there has been an extraordinary increase, not just in Public Works materials, but just across the board. The residents are feeling it, everybody seeing that happen. And so a lot of this has to do with the value of money have just dropped and the same dollar does not put in the same amount of pipe that we used to. So I don't want to say that we're behind. I don't think that's totally accurate. I think more that if we're going to stay on this 80-year replacement program, that's what the city council's weighing. And again, there's a lot of issues on both sides to value. And so we're waiting for the council to make a decision and it'll work out whatever they end up deciding.
Thanks, Gordon.
You can grill the fire people about their part.
So next we're gonna hit Wildland Urban Interface Program and then some emergency preparedness. If we could pick up just a little bit of the pace for our city staff that needs to be here for the planning items. So Captain Atherton, you'll come on up. Thank you.
Wait, so I want to give you guys information. This is great. We have a great turnout tonight. My name is Jeannie Atherton. I'm a captain here. I'm in the fire marshal's office. And so the program I oversee is our Wildland Urban Interface Mitigation Program. So I'm going to talk briefly about this. There is a QR code back there if you want more information or to sign up for a home assessment. And then my contact information is on a slide at the end. If you guys want to take a picture of that, you can get a hold of me and ask me any questions you'd like. So go to the next slide. Actually, you can skip this one because this is our outline, but I'm just going to start talking. So we're going to discuss what is the Wildland Urban Interface. It's a term that's come about over the last 10 years, or it's also called the WUI. That's the shortened version of it. That's a long definition for the basic definition is it's undeveloped property next to developed land. So these pictures are taken from behind Timpview High School and the Timpview Draw. So all the homes above it are Mountain Ridge Road and all that big area. That is what we consider the Wildland Urban Interface. We have huge pockets of this all over our city. Okay, next slide. So what is defensible space? So really, if you live near the Wildland Urban Interface, defensible space is going to be the buffer between your house, your structure, and all the other property that's around you that's undeveloped. We call it defensible space because once you create that, that gives you a boundary to kind of protect your home if there's a fire in the nearby area. There's 2 ways the defensible space can help you and your neighbors, and it also helps us. The first one is it will slow or halt the progress of a fire that is coming up towards your house. Because you have that nice big green area around your house that's not cluttered with dead trees, limbs, and branches, it will actually slow or halt the progress of a fire from coming closer to your home. The other thing is that it ensures the safety of our firefighters when we go in to fight a fire, because anything that will slow a fire down is going to help us. It's going to buy us time to get in and actually get the fire put out before it can extend any further into the foothills or into other homes. Okay, next slide. So this is a little video about why we need it.
Burning in a nearby forest or shrub stick and is now racing towards your community. You might be thinking that as long as your house isn't on the edge of town, you don't have to worry much about it. The reality is, first, it's not the ball of flame on the wall that's most likely to appear in your home. It's the millions of embers that can carry on the wind that are your main concern. High winds can actually drive these burning embers. Their land when you're building. Venting or ignite hedges, wood piles or humble near your home. Secondly, there's a whole lot of fuel for fire in a house, and when houses do catch on fire, they can send flames into 70 feet more into the air, making it more embers that spread fire throughout the community. In densely built neighborhoods, fire can quickly spread from house to house. How do you go about something fire? So even if your neighbors have done everything they can to prepare and protect their homes, what you do or don't do around your home property directly impacts them and the rest of your neighborhood. We're all in this together. Only in strongest. The only way to prepare for you is to move together in the community and get everyone's property ready to go long before it starts. And once we're ready, we've got to stay ready.
Okay, so that fire is very similar to exactly what happened in California in January. The one exception to that fire is it was a wind-driven fire event. So that fire actually overcame the capacity of the fire department and everything else to deal with that because it was being fueled by 100-mile-per-hour winds. We're fortunate because we don't have those kind of downslope wind events here, but we do have winds that come out of the canyon, which can push fires up the hills and up towards the foothills, which is one big reason why we need to do this. So what our department does is we have a wildland mitigation program has kind of a 3-step approach. So we manage all the city properties that are in the wildland urban interface. We have a 6-person seasonal crew each summer that will actually create a fuel break along the Bonneville Shoreline Trail. We go in and we trim that from Rock Canyon all the way down to the Springville border. It takes us to the entire month of June to complete that project, but it's actually saved us from one fire that started near Rock Canyon from running the hillside, which can then produce embers that can go back into the city and cause problems and start homes on fire. And the other thing that we do is we have a curbside chipping program for residents that live in the wildland urban interface and next to these big undeveloped pieces of property that are big fire hazards. So one thing that you can do is if you would like a free home assessment, I'm happy to come out. It's an assessment tool through the state of Utah, and we'll assess your home and your property around it and give you some guidance as to what you can do to make your home safer and less prone to being affected by a wildfire. And then we'll do that for anybody. And then the residents that live within the wildland urban interface areas, if we identify your home as one of those, we offer a curbside chipping program. So you go in, you remove all the fuel, the scrub oak, the dead limbs, whatever it is, and haul it out to your curb. And then our crew will come through and chip it and haul it off to the green waste dump to be turned into compost. So next slide. So this is my contact information. If you want to take a picture of this. And then Rachel will also put it in the newsletter that comes out with a synopsis of this meeting. If you have any questions about anything, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'm more than happy to answer anything, give you resources. We have the Firewise landscaping. We have a lot of resources we can give you for that. And I'm happy to help you figure out what you need to do to keep your home safe. And this last slide is just a QR code. So this is for a free wildland or wildfire home assessment. There's also a same QR code up on the table if you don't have a chance to fill it out using this. There's one sitting on the table right there that when you get a chance before you leave, you can scan that. And it'll be a Google form you fill out. You mark that you want a home assessment. If you just want to fill it out and you have questions, then there's a comment box. You can write some questions in. So that is all I have. Thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions? Yes.
I know in the past that anybody who lived near Louis could just put their stuff out front and you would come collect it. It sounds like you're a little more organized this year.
It's a little more organized because we have such high risk areas that we're really just targeting those. We want everybody to do it, but we're really focusing on just the ones that either back up, border, or adjacent to those undeveloped properties.
But if somebody cleans up their yard, decides to do this, they need to contact you specifically to find out if you're going to come clean it up or if they need to get their neighbors down.
Yes, because they may be 2 or 3 streets away from that, which doesn't qualify for our program because we just don't have the capacity to do everybody, unfortunately. Yes.
You had pictures from areas in our district. Do you have sort of a map that outlines like I mean, you already know where some of these are,
Yeah,
that the district, the neighborhood could look at and see whether their house is in there or close or not.
yes, absolutely. So if you are curious about whether or not you're in one of these areas or not, scan this QR code and say, I'm curious to even know if I'm in this high risk area, and I will help you identify that. And if you want to do so if you live on like Little Rock Drive or Dover Lane or Osmond Lane or any place like that, and you want to set up a community meeting where I come and talk to just your neighborhood, more than happy to do that. So yeah, back there and then there.
Okay, yeah, having watched the California fires, what are the conditions of our reservoirs where water would come to put out fires, and what are the conditions of our fire hydrants?
So that's a great question. So we just filmed some social media reels with Public Works and with our fire department that are gonna be coming out that talk about that. I had someone from Public Works come and talk about the amount of water we have. We have great resources. Like Gordon just said, we have millions of gallons of water at our disposal. So we are not going to run out of water if we have a big fire. The other thing our department does is we go out and test the fire hydrants every year. So we know those fire hydrants are functional, they have the correct pressure, and that we can quickly get the caps on and off if we need to. So those will be coming out. So follow our social media, follow our Facebook and our Instagram, because all that information will be coming out over the coming months as it starts to warm up. Yes.
So I love all the signs. You know, on the east side of Canyon Road, no fireworks.
Mm-hmm.
And you know where I live.
I do.
And we're in the sitting deck. And the people on University Avenue every year let off fireworks in that parking lot, and they are literally 2 feet from that hill.
Yeah.
And I have been around and around and around with the past fire chief, why that is not off limits.
And that's something that needs to be discussed with Fire Marshal Lynn Schofield, because he's the one who oversees our.
Because he and I, the other one, I was like, this is so, I mean, people, it will not just that, but the people in those apartments have shot fireworks toward the hill before.
Yeah.
And I'm like yelling at them.
Yeah, I totally understand. So, yeah, so
And
and
it's
that is
super
something
scary.
to
That
discuss.
every year, I'm super scared about that. And so maybe you could talk to him.
Yeah, I can definitely bring it up with them. Absolutely. Any other questions? Hey, thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. All right, emergency manager, Chris Linzinger.
Hello, everyone. I'm Chris Blinzinger. I'm going to make this really quick. We've got a slide up here. I want to talk about our emergency notification system registration. That's a subscribed registration for our emergency notification. Is anyone in here subscribed to the Everbridge notification system? Okay, how many texts do you get a year about improvement on your insurance rates from the notification system?
Zero.
Correct. We don't do anything like that. This is about protective actions, information for your safety. This is the website. There's a card back there with the QR code here. There's a QR code over here on the poster that you can click on that and register. You can also register for other cities. This is a countywide system, and you're registering for the Provo portion of that. So if you have family members in other parts of the county and you want to register with an address where your family member lives, you can be alerted and with things happening in their neighborhood. Yes, sir.
If you're getting missing children notification, are you also registered on that?
No, that comes through the National Weather Service, actually sends out those. This is a local emergency. Those, like the Amber Alerts and things, those come through a federal thing. We also are starting several months ago, the Provo Auxiliary Communications Team. These are ham radio operators in the city who will help us with information during an emergency. We've got about 35 members so far. If you're interested in that, you can go online to the Emergency Management Ham Radio and register to be a part of that. They're doing weekly nets, and we're actually participating. Those folks are going to be calling in. This week, we have the Great Shakeout on Thursday. So each district in the city has its own frequency on Simplex. The frequency for this District 1 is 439.85. Once a week, they do those nets. You can check in, see who's there, what's going on. It's kind of cool. It helps us get our arms around what's going on in the city during an emergency. So I mentioned the Shakeout. If you're interested in participating in the Shakeout, you can go to Shakeout, Utah Shakeout. That's the statewide exercise. And for Provo, we are testing our emergency alert system for our employees. And you can register to participate in some way that you want to. I think that any action you take for being prepared on your part exponentially increases the preparedness of our city. So when you do that, also take care of each other, get to know your neighbors, take care of your neighbors, and check on your neighbors. It takes all of us during blue skies, and it takes all of us even more during the times when something's disrupting life here in Provo. Any questions for me?
So that's not the ham radio information up there.
That is not. That is the
That's something else.
emergency
So
notification.
you just said what it is, but how could we get in contact?
The provo.org website. And if you look for emergency management or ham radio, there's a link on there to register that goes to a Google form, and then you will start getting the emails about the weekly nets and things like that. Are there any hams in here? My wife says I'm a ham. Rachel's a ham. Anyway, that's it. Any questions? Thanks, folks. Great participation. Good to see y'all here. Go do something good.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
All right, Malia, how quick can we be on our,
So fast.
good deal?
So fast.
See everyone.
Okay, this will be super quick. The council is discussing off-leash hours in parks, not necessarily dog parks, but just off-leash hours in city parks for dogs. Before they make a decision, which will happen in a June, well, they'll be discussing it in a June meeting, I think June 17th. They have surveys that they wanted me to give out to neighborhood districts. So I have a paper version. If you scan this, it's the exact same thing. It's just online. So if you'd rather do it on paper, I have paper and pen and can hand those out, or you can do it online. And then we're just collecting this. And like I said, we'll be talking about this at the June 17th work meeting. I believe that's the date. But we'll keep you posted in the newsletters and stuff like that. But if anyone would like a paper version, I'll have them at the back, or if you want to raise your hand now, I can hand it out to you.
Thanks, Malia.
Okay, and real quick, this is for off-leash dog hours at existing city parks. And it's just an idea, it's just getting feedback. This is not to be confused with Parks and Rec asking for feedback about dedicated dog parks.
That are fenced.
That are fenced in. So, and they are having another open house, April 23rd, 5:30 to 7 at the rec center. If you want to give feedback on if you want a dedicated dog park and where in the city you want that. They just wanted us to advertise that. And these are two completely different things.
Yeah. Dogs, but it's.
Thank you. All right, we now have two planning and zoning items. Rachel, and maybe let's see, Nancy or Mary are better suited, but can you remind us why these are on our agenda? Sometimes there's some confusion about what goes to city or planning commission and city council. Can you just remind us why they're here?
So the items that eventually go to the city council are the ones that are heard here in our meetings. A lot of planning items are administrative. As long as they meet code, then the city has to okay them. And so the ones that go to the planning commission and then the city council are your zone changes, your general plan amendments, if they affect just your neighborhood, and also your ordinance changes if they affect your neighborhood. Those are the three that go to the neighborhood meetings. And kind of the process is someone has an idea, they apply it at the city. It goes through a whole bunch of reviews. And then it goes to the planning commission, and then the city council makes the final decision. So for this first item that we're doing, it's gone through the review process, and it is actually going to the planning commission, I think next week. Is that correct?
Yeah, next Wednesday.
So April 22nd is when this one is going to the planning commission, and then after, is that right? No, I'm doing the right. April 23rd, and then it'll go to the city council on May 20th. And so Nancy is here to talk to us about this one, and this one is in the Pleasant View neighborhood.
We can do questions. If we need to vote, that'll get a little guidance on that. Sorry, thank you.
Okay, so this is 2000 North Canyon Road, so north of Stadium Terrace and the actually stadium is down here a little bit further. And this property has gone through several different ideas. And this is what the latest proposal is from the developer to change from R18 lots to R16 lots. So still residential, single family homes. The lots would just be 6,000 square feet in size as opposed to 8,000 square feet in size. And that's all that has been proposed and all that's there as of now, and the question that will go before Planning Commission and the City Council. So questions that you might have.
Nancy, when you talk about 1,000 square feet, my brain doesn't compute. What are we talking about? Like a quarter acre, 8 to 10?
No, yeah, that's a good question, but so yeah, if I pull up my thing and 43,560 is the acre. And so if you divide that by 6,000, you get
0.18.
okay, so it's 0.18, so close to, 20.
Thank you.
Can we just clarify where this is? Is this the hill that they keep talking about
Yes.
that they want to take out?
Yes,
We still want to remove the hill,
yes.
but now.
Okay, so the other thing is the question about hill removal isn't what's up for discussion with the Planning Commission and the City Council. It's just whether or not it should be rezoned for something.
So were these originally all the apartments, the 100 apartments that were going in?
Yes,
Now the developer's thrown that off the table.
The
yes,
City Council denied that request.
And so now this is the new proposal.
yes.
And does this proposal take into consideration the problems that they had with the pipes under there?
All of that would be decided and figured out by our engineering public works division. So Gordon, you heard him talk first. His team would make sure every single one of those things was checked off and safe for the city.
Would that be before the zone change or after?
It would be after the zone change, before anything was given a permit to be done on the property.
I'd like to clarify that the R16 lots are the size of the lots in the Allred development. If you're familiar with the Allred development, those lots are R16. So that will help you know what he's asking for in this change.
Which are immediately west of Canyon Road from this, yes?
Yes.
Yes, So, as a district representative from the Pleasant View, I have, no problem with the change in the zone, but we have enormous problem with the taking down of the hill and that sort of thing. And if this is only done because of taking down the hill, we are not enthused.
Which, at least with the other development, the 100 apartments that the City Council denied, the developer expressed a willingness at that time to enter a development agreement to bond to cover revegetation or whatever he would need to do to secure that hill if he got partway through the project.
Well, it's probably
would
a
ask him to do
40-foot
the same.
cement retaining wall.
But I would ask him to include that in the development agreement. If the City Council's listening, when it comes to them.
We have a question on Zoom. I'm gonna, Mike Nicholson, if you want to talk.
Yes. Sorry, I had a computer in for
Getting a lot of feedback. I don't know if you wanna exit and then call back in, or if you have the meeting on another screen, that might be the problem.
Or he can,
Or you can put it in the chat and I'll read it out loud to everyone. You can also do that.
there's a chat and also a Q&A that you can put your question in and we'll read it.
Go ahead.
While we wait for Mike, can you zoom in and tell us the depth of the lots adjacent to Mickelson's house, which is the one in the cul-de-sac,
The depth, you mean how much,
east to west?
um,
Lines between lots.
yeah, I'm not sure if we'd be able to read it, from here.
Okay. So
And
you
I don't
can't-
think I could pull it up, but the thing is, I mean, I couldn't pull it up on my phone. So this, city code requires 6,000 square feet lots to have a minimum of, I think it's 60 feet in depth. It could be more,
Yes, yeah, so the issue,
75 feet in depth.
yes, the challenge is going to be those lots are drawn as if the entire parcel was gone, the hill was gone to Mickelson's west property line. Since that won't be the case, the plan for the 100-unit apartment had a 2-to-1 slope. The 2-to-1 slope would take about 160 feet. If that series of rightmost lots are not 160 feet deep now, they wouldn't exist at all. So although it's a planning commission item for the consideration of the hillside slope, it shouldn't go to the planning commission presenting 2, 4, 6, 7 lots that will be physically impossible.
Go ahead. We're gonna have Mike, if you want to try again.
Okay, sorry about that. The chat's disabled, so I wasn't able to put a comment there. Yeah, I'll just echo what he just said. You know, this proposal doesn't have any details about what the what my property line would look like. I don't want a 50-foot retaining wall. I got a 10,000-pound shed that's right on the property line that would probably slough off on that hill. And I was actually kind of okay with the last proposal because they had a kind of a slope with a retaining wall that was kind of a 50-50 split. But this new proposal, I don't know. I just don't know what to make of it.
I agree that it's very hard to envision how that slope would go because obviously it just looks like a hard line. But those decisions and the safety of that area would be addressed by Public Works and their engineering with geotechnical studies to make sure that what the ground is made up of, how stable it is, and then at what % of a slope it should be cut to make sure that it is safe.
You know, I find that these types of views are only helpful to a point. Having a profile so that you actually see in relief what that looks like. When we looked at this project before, and we finally got what it would actually look like from the street with all the other buildings, that's what was really telling. But the bird's eye view only gives you a little piece of the puzzle. And I think it would help everyone if they were also given the information about the profile view.
I agree. I'm happy to mention that to the developer and see if he has a way to get any of that information for the planning commission meeting next week.
So I have a concern about a project like this because so often developers come in and I know the city has them bond to clean up after themselves. And so you said this plan is dependent on, Public Works going through and making sure everything's right and doing geotech testing. So he goes in, finds out that the geotech testing isn't going to be okay. Post city council saying yes. And have they bonded enough? Do we have a big mess on our hands that the city then has to fix? Like, I'd like those questions answered before a yes is given on any of this.
So I can't answer for Public Works
I
and,
just said that for the public record.
okay, well, and the thing, I do think that the developer has given a geotechnical study to Public Works. I cannot comment on what it is.
Do you have a sense as to the height of that? It sounds like a retaining wall on the east side of the property.
How much it would need to be?
Yeah.
I don't. I do know that I've heard him talk about 45 feet is like where the hill is now. And yet homes would, homes are 35 feet. But no, I don't have an idea.
And it slopes from east to west, correct?
Yes, it would go down.
I mean, yeah, that actually, it seems like it's in some ways a good solution because in a sense, the neighbors behind the line of sight is not homes or apartments.
Right. Don't have anything blocking their view. Did you have a question?
There appears to be four dead ends on the streets. Why aren't those planned with bulb type ends? I don't know what that one that's pointing southwest is. But it seems like there should be adequate facilities for turnarounds.
And definitely the fire department would make sure that they met those standards, that they had the standards for streets. In that way, I'm not sure on this one, these, the ones that you see going that way and that way are to give access to the lots that are like back here and lot 4, 5, and 7, to give access to those.
What is it? Do the setbacks change at all if you go from the 8,000?
No.
So it's, in a sense, the setbacks from the homes and other things would still be the same. So it really is just a density issue.
Yeah,
And
it would
that
be
jumps
smaller
out
homes.
into to Canyon Road.
Yes, that would be their only access is from Canyon Road.
Yeah, it's like a great solution.
Has the developer with this project concept made any kind of indications about guarantees for owner occupancy versus units to be available for rent, to be rented out?
Well, single family homes. That's what our standard is for owner occupancy or only what is defined as a single family.
I was just curious. I know there's been some proposals that have had some certain guarantees tied into that of some amount versus all available for rent. So yeah, just curious.
Well, yeah, I don't think.
They can't really, I don't think they can. Yeah. You're talking about a downstream issue that developer can't in any way control.
Yeah.
Not where there's no right.
Yeah, sure.
Are there any other questions for me?
Rachel, any Zoom comments that we need to address?
Not seeing any.
We're good.
And so what's the recommendation requirement tonight for a poll? Is it a favor or not in favor? Is that what we need to try to capture?
Polls are optional. If you as chair want to hold a poll to see if people are in favor of this project or not in favor. A lot of times we just give the feedback to the planner, and then it goes to becomes part of the staff report.
Can I make just a statement? It sounds like for those who are probably most affected by this project, this is a hillside concern more than the rezoning density concern specifically. Is that an accurate statement?
For me, yes.
Yes, okay. So I think our feedback to the planning commission and potentially subsequently to city council is, boy, we didn't get much information to address that. So I would venture to say, if we were to take a poll, most of this room who was directly affected would say, no, no, no. Because we just don't have enough information on how they will address the slope stability kinds of issues. Anybody disagree with my summary of that? I'm not sure a poll is needed. I think we know where it would go, but we just don't have enough information on the site constraints on the slope itself.
Except that they're probably, Nancy, the same as they are for R18, which is what he currently has zoned for.
Right.
So don't.
So if he came in without a zone change, he could probably still do maybe 15 or 16 lots on the same.
No.
No, it would be less. No.
For 8.
No, it's 8,000 square
I
feet.
thought we decided about 8 homes that we.
That's what he had put in a plan, whether or not they could have fit a couple, a little bit more, but yeah.
So you'd lose a few lots, but it wouldn't actually address the real concern.
Right.
Potentially. Okay.
He probably ought to find out too about all the other pipes and things before he goes ahead.
Yeah, he's come to the city a couple. Okay, so just to clarify for everyone, next, what's the 23rd? Next Wednesday is Planning Commission, which is where this goes next.
That's correct.
And so an appropriate course of action for anyone who wants either to speak there or to give more information would be to email. Do you have the email?
I do, and I do have agendas for that meeting. If people are interested, you can grab an agenda. It has, and I do have a slide with the email for the Planning Commission and also the City Council.
The Planning Commissioner, City Council is very good about trying to understand your needs and your desires, but we have to communicate that to them. So an email is a great way to do that, not the day of or the day before. That doesn't give them enough time to read it. But like tomorrow or tonight when you get home, write a little note on that email address, come to the meetings, stay engaged, keep asking questions.
Can you announce where and what time the meeting is? So people
Be here and they usually start at.
Yeah, April 23rd at 6 o'clock in the council chambers, just right across the hall.
6 o'clock.
Okay, Nancy, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we have the developer for the next item. We have developer Douglas Nielsen and city planner Mary Barnes. Mary, maybe you want to start and kind of introduce us to, and I think this is the project we've seen, but it's been a year?
At least a year.
At least a year since we've seen some of the details. So catch us up on why we're back here and what's going on.
Okay, so first of all,
This one has gone to the Planning Commission, but it has not gone to the City Council yet.
it'll be going to city council next week on Tuesday. All right, so just quickly, this is where it is. It's that big vacant field just north of the existing Jamestown retail on University Avenue. So this is the third iteration of this, a plan for this parcel. First one was in 2019, then in 2021. Since then, the applicant has, the reason why those didn't go through the entire process is because the applicant said the market just wasn't right for it at that time. He says that he's ready to move forward with it right now, and he's moving forward at first with a rezone. The rezone is going to be to change this PO. PO stands for professional office zone to two different zones, SSC, so to just extend the SSC, which is especially support commercial zone, and also add an LDR, which is low density residential zone on that corner right there. With the SSC area, he's wanting to add 3 retail units.
Use the microphone.
I don't actually have a microphone. Sorry. Can you, okay, perfect. All right, so there'll be 3 units up here, 3 retail units, I should say, up on the north end of the SSC zone, and then he's proposing like an indoor storage unit complex thing right here. That's completely enclosed storage units. It's just gonna be one big building, storage units inside, nothing, outdoor. And then in the LDR section, he's proposing 6 townhomes to kind of wrap around
to match the use of the, you know, the twin homes here and then that single family home up on the corner. Just go to the next slide. All right, so this is the concept plan. It's still in concept plan phase. If this rezone gets approved, then we will get a lot more detail. For example, we don't like have a landscaping plan like yet or anything like that. Developers have to wait till after the rezone to really put a lot of money in something like this. Anyways, so this is that storage complex that we talked about. It's pretty big. There's those retail units up there, and then the 6 townhomes right there. One question I got over the weekend, sorry, I don't know if I'm talking really loud. One question I got over the weekend was someone was wondering how far away this top access is from University Avenue. I measured it, it's about 103 feet. The Public Works has looked over this, including our traffic engineer, and he didn't tell the applicant to move the access. But again, that's mostly going to come in the project plan application. This application is just looking at whether or not that professional office zone should be changed to an SSC and an LDR zone. Can you go to the next slide? Another part of this is an ordinance text amendment. He's wanting to, also the applicant is Douglas Nielsen, and he is here tonight if you have any questions. Applicant's wanting to change that SSC zone to allow indoor storage units and drive-throughs, and also remove the permissible floor area ratio requirement. That floor area ratio requirement, just to put it simply, is kind of an outdated way to do lot coverage. In our code, this SSC zone, actually Douglas was the one who, the applicant was the one who originally helped come up with the SSC zone back in the 90s, I think. So it hasn't really been changed since. So this would be, he wants to get rid of it. Staff is recommending having a lot coverage requirement of 30%. We just kind of pulled that number from a different zone. Didn't really mean a lot, just to have something there. But the planning commission wanted to recommend a 34% lot coverage. That's what happened 2 weeks ago, or yeah, I think it was 2 weeks ago. You can go to the next slide. So this is just a site rendering of what it would kind of look like. Again, it's not exactly correct there. It will, you know, move a little. If you go to the next slide. And then these are the elevations. So it would match kind of what's going on in Jamestown with the offices, with the retail right now. Douglas Nielsen, the applicant, is the one who did all those offices, who did all that retail, who's very committed to making sure the completion of the Jamestown project matches what has been done. And it completely meets all our design corridor and standards. It's going to be the prettiest storage complex ever, you know. But yeah, any questions on that rezone or ordinance text amendment?
To clarify a couple of things. So we're seeing these images, because we're seeing them, does that mean they're part of what gets approved? Like if they were to deviate from this, would the city call them on it?
Great question.
Clarify what this means, what we're seeing.
You mean the elevations?
Yes.
Yes, so the elevations are just part of the concept plan. Whenever a rezone comes in, we want to make sure the planning commission and city council and all of you can know kind of what the developer is wanting to do with the project. But again, that can change in the project plan. He is going above and beyond on the design standards, like completely. He does not have to do all of this, but he is the one who kind of created what that area looks like. So we trust that he is going to do this when it gets approved, or if it gets approved.
I like trusting too, but if he sold it, conceivably somebody else could do something quite different than what we're seeing potentially.
Potentially, but they would have to meet code. Again, this goes above and beyond, but our code, we do have design requirements. So,
and can you clarify what the LDR height is? We think it's 30 feet. Is that?
It's 30 feet. Yeah, and the SSC height is 35. Thank you.
What retail is he looking at?
That's a great question for the applicant. Sometimes developers don't quite know what retail is going to be there until they get a rezone, then they can start working on the plan and advertising to potential tenants. But he can probably answer that question, Sharon, and then we'll go on.
So, but to your point, if he gets he has the SSC.
SSC zone,
He has the SSC along University, he just wants to expand it back a little bit.
yes,
And so whatever he builds, if he sells it or somebody else builds, they still have to meet whatever's in that current code.
exactly.
And I don't know, does this university part fall under the design corridor standard also?
It does,
You
yes.
shouldn't expect to see anything really different or really huge.
Exactly. Nothing
It's
is
an
going to
expectation,
be.
not a, you know.
Yes,
like,
exactly.
But
Any questions? Yes.
Yes, can you speak to why the staff recommended the 30% and the planning commission up to the 34? Do you know, can you speak to the rationale for that?
Yes, I can. Could you go back to the site plan? So we said 30% just because a kind of similar code to this one, the SSC is the FD1 zone, and that's what's required there. So we just kind of pulled that out. No rhyme or reason. We're just doing what makes sense, to transpose it over. Technically, as it looks right now, this is just with the SSC zone, which is just the commercial area. As it is right now, it's 33.8% covered. So the planning commission decided, they recognized that we recommended that 30%, but they decided they like how it looks right now, and they don't want the applicant to have to shrink his buildings to meet that 30%. That's why they landed at that 34. They're happy with the look of the project, the feel of the project, how it fits in with everything, and that's just the commercial. LDR is completely different. Angela, oh wait, did you have a question?
I have two.
Okay.
So the townhomes, are they gonna be owner occupied?
That's a great question for the applicant. I'm not sure.
Because you know the push.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And we're gonna keep pushing for home ownership. Even if somebody buys it and rents it out, it belongs to a person and not a corporation.
Mhm.
Big push. And then the second question was, oh yes, it wasn't really a question, it was a comment. And this is something I know I brought up with maybe you and with Aaron, and I don't really remember the response. So I appreciate that this guy wants to continue the theme of what's there architecturally, whatever. And like Gordon suggested, that just economic wise, things are just so expensive right now, right, to build. And so people get in and say, oh, we can't afford to build the way we intended to build. And so then they build something. And I will go back to the disaster at Millrace. And all the pictures that were proposed and how beautiful it was. And I was actually excited about it. And it is so awful. What can the city do? Because this is my question, and I can't remember the answer. What can the city do when somebody comes in with a proposal? Can you make them stick to their design proposal?
Great question. So that would have to be through the Millrace one. There's a different situation where they did provide good design elevations, but in the development agreement, I don't think we specifically tied them to that. So it would be through a development agreement with specific language. Again, the applicant for this project, he's done everything else. He's the one who created the SSC zone. This is the last, like the crowning jewel, the finish. He's gonna finish out the Jamestown project. So he wants it to be cohesive, just like he's done everywhere else.
And I like that, but I would like Matt said, trust is great, but in writing's better.
Right, yeah.
Would they be willing to?
Can the city write a development agreement that is binding? I guess that's my question.
That's a great question.
Right?
I think we have to work very closely with the developer. Again, rezones and concept plans it's hard because which one comes first? It's hard to ask a developer to put in so much information into a design and building plans. And then if the rezone gets denied or something, then that's all that money that's gone. But anyways, that is a great question, and thank you for bringing that up.
I just have a quick question about the traffic, knowing that UDOT on their long-term projections, they want to expand University Avenue from the current 5 lanes to 7. So when they get around to doing that, will the Planning Commission propose or at least ask him to have a deceleration or acceleration lane from the development in here?
I don't believe that is a requirement as of right now. Again, project plan, and I believe that would have come up in concept plan because of, such a major thing that would. This is like from the property lines right here, it's like 40, how much feet is that?
45 feet.
45 feet. So there's plenty of room and he's gonna landscape all of that to make sure it looks good. It looks not great right now. So there is room for something like that if it would be required later, but I don't believe there are any plans to make it happen right now. I don't know where UDOT is on their plans, but it's not needed for this development as of right now. Awesome. Oh, yes.
I actually live in the property just north,
Okay.
where apparently the city wants to remove our house and put 100 East all the way through. So our concern right now is that all of this traffic from these two entrances here are going to make our lane access absolutely a disaster. Is there an option where the storage unit could be switched where the drive-through is actually backwards? Like if you're driving in that direction, you have to go full circle and then the traffic is complicated right there. I don't understand that. But if it was switched around, like flow of traffic would make more sense. If the restaurant with the two drive-throughs is where the actual storage center is located. And then there would be access to exit going that way around by the, that could lead around to the light or back out onto 100 East. So like, that's a big concern just with the logistics of this.
Yeah.
When it could possibly be entered in from 100 East. Because that area is already so congested. 100 East is a really wide road, but 3470 is not. And people already park there. We've had to replace our mailbox like 3 times in the last 2.5 years. So because people take that corner so fast and there's a dip right there, it's really a problem. So the traffic is crazy already. And then adding a restaurant with 2 drive-throughs right there and a 6 unit residence like just really complicates our life quite a lot. So,
and puts a lot of congestion on that 3470.
Well, and University Avenue is already difficult to get across, right?
Yeah.
I mean, making a left on heading south is complicated there. So like it's already tricky with the Jamestown entrance right at our driveway. People don't look when they pull around that corner, they just think that they can pull right out. And so it's really complicated to have that entrance with the housing at that same, like it's offset, so it'll make it even more complicated, right? So that seems to be a really challenging congestion point, and especially from our perspective where
we're taking our lives in our hands
Yeah.
if we try to exit the grocery.
Great, yeah, well, sorry, not great, that's bad. So one thing I will say, and then I'll let the applicant say something, and I know we have to like wrap it up quickly, but technically tonight, or the city council next week, they're not approving this plan, they're just looking at the rezone and that ordinance text amendment. This will go through, if the rezone and ordinance text amendment are approved, it'll go through a complete review with the traffic engineers to make sure to look at those conflict points you talked about, and then we'll go to planning commission with and if something comes up and they say you're gonna have to switch it, then the applicant will be required to switch it. I would recommend, if this rezone gets approved, maybe calling up and talking to the engineer who gets assigned to the, you can call me and then I'll connect you to that engineer so you can communicate your issues there, and that they can take a really close, look at it. But I totally see what you're saying. 3470 is a narrower road. It does help that there is access down here, and anyone who knows the property is gonna know that they wanna go to the light, right? But, someone who doesn't know the property may not know that. Doug, did you wanna say something?
The
Clicker is a laser pointer at the top.
We don't have a clicker.
All right. Hi, Doug Gilson, the applicant. I'd like to address your concern.
Close to your mouth, please.
Right here, okay.
Sorry. Oh, wait.
Could you go back to the site plan?
Sorry, Mac.
One more.
I'd like to point out, on this storage complex, the architect that designed this, thank you. The architect that designed is from Salt Lake, and then our local architect is designing the exterior to be compatible with all of our other buildings. But he's done hundreds of these facilities, and he recommends, or he said all that is required are 6 parking stalls for the storage facility. We wanted to have additional parking stalls, so we have plenty of overflow employee parking for these 3 retail spaces. And right here, that's the Solicious building starts right here, and there's an access here. This, from what I've been told by the architect and the company that did our feasibility study, this is going to have a minimal impact on traffic. We only have a few stops a day from the renters and storage units. Very, very little impact here. Much less impact than you're going to have with the front street. And then, of course, here you have the same similar density that you have across the street. So this would be considered low impact, 6 residents, and they will access their parking in the back. The garages are in the rear. So these tenants that live here will not be parking out there. Typically, they'll be parking. They have guest parking right there. There's 1 guest parking stall per unit, 6 units. It's a 2-car garage. So I believe you're not going to have a tremendous impact on 100 East.
So you're talking about 100 East. That's not what we're referring to. We're referring to the entrance and exit that go on to 3470.
Yeah.
That's where the congestion is.
Yeah, and you're gonna have anytime you access University Avenue, you're gonna have some conflicts.
Exactly.
Nice
That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, the nice thing is that we have we installed this traffic signal on 3300 now.
Okay, I understand that.
Okay, and that's where if you.
We're talking about the congestion between the existing Jamestown where their driveway to go in on the north side of this, the new development.
What, I don't see, what were you?
So right there.
Right here?
At the north side of this development.
Yeah.
You've got 2 access points to go in and out onto 3470. That is going to increase that congestion on 3470 right in front of our driveway as we also try to exit and enter, and people are not looking and paying attention. And so whether they're going on to university, I mean, one way to help with that would be to make those right turn only so that they can only go back around to 100 East and to the light.
I anticipate.
But a lot of people won't. They'll turn left and try to go on to university.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but this bank parking goes continuously down and accesses the light. So I'm assuming that if you leave this business right here, and you want to turn left, go south on University Avenue, you just go right down the signal line. You have that all over town. You have that same situation.
Okay, yes, but are you going to, on those north entrances to the businesses and to the townhomes, are they going to be right turn only?
We don't have, we haven't done a traffic study or anything on if a right turn only would be warranted there. That would come with project plan approving, but the exact same concern was brought up in planning commission. The city engineer, David Day, was there and he said that that's something that we look into when it comes through for project plan approval. We have more information on traffic counts.
Yeah, and I don't want to create a situation where people are turning left and turning right. If the city determines that this intersection is right turn only, then that's fine. I mean, if that's the safest, we want everybody to be safe. We don't want to create a situation that's dangerous. Just for economic, exigencies, you know, so we have a signalized intersection down here. And if that's right turn only, that's fine with me, whatever the city wants to do. Yeah.
So is there a possibility that the storage complex could go where the restaurants are and switch that down where the other restaurants are?
You
To
could,
ease that traffic and close out at least one of those entrances?
I suppose that could happen, but it
The restaurant flow would be better.
I beg your pardon?
The drive-through flow, as you're coming in here, to go into a drive-through, you circle and then you have to go all the way around to go back up.
You're talking about right here, yeah. So,
Right.
So we wanted, the reason we put the retail here is because it's close to an intersection, it's close to what am I saying, side of the road that is perpendicular to University Avenue.
Right.
So you drive up the road here, you turn in, you hit the restaurants, and if it's a right turn only, then you just, if you're leaving, you just go down here and signal and turn left or right, or if you want to turn right.
So it's a money thing is the issue.
Money? No.
That's the concern, or like, because the flow of traffic would work better if it was adjusted this way, because you would drive in there by So Delicious or whatever that is. Because they have that drive-through for So Delicious is a nightmare. It's always backed up to 100 East all the time. It's a mess. But like if you have drive-throughs that are going, like you would drive in and go around, and then you would have two options for exiting instead of that one out onto University.
I guess I have a brain issue. Could you point that out?
Can we pause this for a second? My guess is you're gonna stick around for a few minutes, and maybe the two of you could have a little side conversation. For everybody's benefit, in terms of timing, I think we need to move on.
Yes.
So what's happening on next
Next
Wednesday?
Tuesday night,
sorry.
is the council meeting where this rezone and the ordinance text amendment I talked about, they're both going to council. Council will make the final decision. Planning Commission did recommend approval for both of those. That ordinance text amendment had that one.
What was concept plan?
Concept plan was approved with Planning Commission. So
So this
yes.
plan has been approved. This is the
The
concept.
concept has been approved, the actual project plan would only come after the rezone. If this rezone is approved, then we'll.
Rezone is, just to clarify for everyone, because I think I will take a poll on this one. This is the small section.
Of LDR,
LDR.
And then stretching
modifying
the SSC.
SSC, because currently you have the right to do SSC on everything. Or, no, it's cut in a funny way.
Currently, he can do offices here and retail here, but he wants to add retail for it.
When we started this project 30 plus years ago, the staffers of the city, the planning department, came up with a concept of especially support commercial.
Yes.
They wanted to have more control, they wanted to have more landscape requirements, parking, setbacks, because this was a undeveloped area, North University Avenue. They wanted to make sure this they can turn it into State Street and Orm. So they came up with this zone, especially support. And so
And this is the only place in the city where it is, and it's gonna be the only place where it will be kind of thing.
so it's just, they built that zone for our project. And so now to fit this project, which makes the sense, the storage unit makes sense there because you can have access on the rear, so we can landscape both sides of the building. We don't have to have an alleyway. And it just works out perfectly because you got parking in the front. You can access the back, and again, you only have a few trips a day where tenants are going to be accessing there. They say there's just not much traffic there. So that really works. And then the retail really works because you got an intersection there. And then what do we do with that piece left over in the back? That just happened. That's just a filler. Really, it is, the residential.
And staff is recommending approval of the rezone and the ordinance text amendment. We've gone a little bit over time, sorry about that, but there's my number on the agendas, and my number will be on the agenda for this council meeting. I also have a card. Maybe can I give you a card? Is that okay? You can give me a call or email tomorrow. And I'll just leave that.
Okay. So here's what I think we ought to do. We will take a poll. Becca will count for us, and I think we keep it simple. In favor, based on what we've seen, the planning commission has already seen this and they're already in support. Not that that has to sway you, but just so you know where we're at. In favor or not in favor of the package we just saw? Okay. Of the zone change. Those in favor, raise them high, and you have to live in District 1 to vote. Yeah. Raise them high. And those opposed, raise them high.
Online, were there, someone raise their hands online?
Okay. And let's also on the text amendment, the 30, right, it's 30% now.
So the text amendment is, it's a little bit complicated, but the text amendment that the applicant submitted was to add storage and drive-throughs as permitted uses and to get rid of that kind of outdated floor area ratio requirement. We recommended 30%, the planning commission recommended 34%. So I don't know how that works with your.
Okay, so it's the 34% number and the storage unit as a use. Okay, so yes or no?
And drive-throughs.
And drive-throughs. And drive-throughs.
That-
Drive-throughs, storage, and the 34% number.
All three of them we're voting together or three separate?
Yes, that's what the text amendment.
Okay, that's the text.
Okay. So those in favor of that change to the text amendment? And these are polls to give to planning commission and city council that they have a sense of where the neighbors are. And any against that text amendment? That's not, okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job. And developer, sorry. Douglas, thank you for being here with us. Appreciate your time. Thank you.
And I want to just say real quick, because I live near there, it is one of the most gorgeous places of Provo, especially with the blossoms right now, the way it is landscaped and the architecture really does stand out. It's stunning.
Thank you. All right, we will move on. We have 5 minutes left. We need to make sure we have time for some public comment on anything that else we need. But Richard Jensen is on the board. Will you give a little update on 2200 North? Talked about this a few times.
We've had safety concerns. We want to thank for this, your speed sign, which some observers indicate may be helping the speed on eastbound 2230 to 2200 north to decrease somewhat. We're appreciating of that. We have a committee of concerned people in this area who've been meeting and have devised a questionnaire that we're distributing to the Provo City neighborhood with regard to things that they'd like to see happen with 2200, 2230 north. And we have an offer from City Traffic Manager Vern Kiesler to meet with him and discuss what will happen going forward, hopefully based on the input from all these stakeholders and interested people in the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thanks, Richard. Appreciate it. All right. I'm going to propose we take the social ideas concept off the agenda. We'll let the board talk about that separately.
We just kind of announce it instead of discuss it.
Announce that there's going to be something. We don't really have a lot of detail.
Right. So that's our announcement. Our announcement is that we've been working on some different ideas that we'd like to see happen. You know, the bike to work thing is coming up. Rachel, what's the date?
May 1st.
May 1st. Get excited. Bike somewhere. We haven't really jumped into that one as a board. But if you'd like, there are links that you can try to get your business to be a sponsor or stop on this. Ask Rachel. Rachel will send this out in her updated email, and there will be a place, because I know I've seen it already when she emailed your info for this. that you can get your business. If you want to get a stop along one of the routes, then sign up. Also, we're looking at doing a neighborhood party. We're looking at that for the fall. We're also considering a parade. We thought it'd be fun to do our own little area parade. And we're considering July 4th and July 24th.
Not.
Maybe not on those exact dates, maybe in that vicinity. So there you go. Those are things we're considering. If you'd like to give us input, because we love your input on that. Any of the board members can take that input. So that's what I want you to know about that.
Thank you. Officer Hutchinson, you can be efficient for us. We'd appreciate it.
Yeah.
Give us a little update on safety in our neighborhoods in our district area.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey. All right, so I'm Officer Hutchinson. I'm your guys' community resource officer for District 1. I also cover District 4. Apologize for being late. I was at our Cops and Bobbers event where we take elementary school kids fishing, so I'm covered in fish bait and various other things. So it's great. I noticed that there was a couple of things that people wanted me to hit. A major one was speeding. We're aware that speeding is an issue. It's an issue all over the state, all over Provo. I left my business card on the back table. If you have specific areas that you notice speeding cars a lot and specific times of day or days of the week, shoot me an email and I will let our traffic enforcement team know so they can direct their efforts at certain points. They try and hit most areas, but there's only a handful of them. Patrol officers also try and enforce speeding when they can. However, our patrol officers are also very busy, which is why we have a dedicated traffic team. As far as e-bikes and golf carts and things of that nature, right? In the eyes of the law, an e-bike, as long as it also can be pedaled and then has an electric motor, it's considered an e-bike. And those are allowed to be driven on like the roadway, on the river trail, things of that nature, right? They're supposed to be capped off on the river trail at 15 miles an hour. Our motors team and also me up in our community resource division will monitor the river trail for speeding e-bikes and things of that nature. If you see something that resembles a dirt bike and it has pegs and not pedals, that is not street legal. So if grandkids have some of those, they don't have pedals, don't let them ride them on the street. Don't let them take them on the river trail. Is that like a Ciron? Yeah, the Cirons are an electric dirt bike. So if they're gonna be on the street, they have to be licensed, registered, and they have to have a motorcycle endorsement.
So an easy thing, because we've heard in our neighborhood, some people think their golf carts are street legal. Essentially, if you've got a license plate on it, you're legal. But if you don't, you're not. And you can go through the city to find out whether you can get that license plate on your dirt bike or whatever it is.
Yeah, if it's gonna be on the road, it needs to be registered, it needs to be insured, and you need to have a license to drive it, right? So golf carts are not allowed, right? I know that there's been issues about people taking golf carts down to Dave's Market and whatnot. If they're on the roadway, we're absolutely happy to enforce it. If they're staying on private property, so if someone owns a big patch of land or a big part of dirt, we can't enforce on private property, they're allowed to drive them there. I know that the e-dirt bikes and golf carts and things of that nature are a big issue, especially up around Timpview, because of the kids going there. We focused a lot of efforts there in the fall, working with SROs there to try and mitigate that, as well as we're working with the school district to help put a stamp on that. They're ramping that back up again now that it's warmed up, and we're gonna keep pushing that going forward. But the school district has some rules and some discipline that they'll be handing out for kids that are bringing their e-dirt bikes to school and things of that nature, right? And then we're also out there, if they're old enough and they're over 16, then they're gonna be getting citations. If they're not, then we'll be contacting parents to let them know. Yes.
Someone with a golf cart told me that his was legal because it was a certain high number of horsepower. Is that a thing or not?
No, it can't be on the roadway, right? Even if it's under certain CCs, can't have it on the roadway. Because if you're operating it as a motor vehicle, it needs to be treated as a motor vehicle. So,
Thank you.
Yes.
Can you do a really quick reminder of age limits? Because someone presented before on like e-bikes, you have to be 12 or older. Like, do you know off the top of your head what those age limits
So
are?
as far as e-bikes, if they have pedals, I'm not 100% sure. If it's going to be like a motorcycle or an e-dirt bike, like I said, it needs to be registered, and you need to have a motorcycle endorsement. Motorcycle endorsements work based off of the CCs or the measurement of the engine. So when you get your motorcycle endorsement, you have to test for the size of engine that you want, whether it's 650 cc's or below, 650 cc's or higher. But you have to have your motorcycle endorsement if you're gonna be driving a motorcycle.
Then there's like a sticker on your driver's license or something?
Yeah, so when you pull out your driver's license, it'll say endorsement, and it'll say motorcycle endorsement, and it'll say whether it's above or below that CC limit. So if any of your kids want to ride e-dirt bikes to school and they're old enough and can get their motorcycle endorsement, they need to have that. Yeah.
Is there any place where this information is all in one, one document or something, so you can share it with somebody?
There's a really cool place called the Utah State Code, but it's not very easy to read. If you want, I have a really cool flyer. If you send me an email, I'm more than happy to send that out, or I can send it to Rachel to send out. But we have a cool flyer that kind of breaks down what's allowed where and who's allowed to drive it.
Rachel, will you send that out? I think I'd like to put that on my neighbor's front porch.
Rachel, if you'll send me an email just to remind me, so I'll remember in the morning to send that out to you.
Hey, any other questions for Officer Hutchinson?
Okay, just real quick, I know Rachel wanted me to touch on the special needs registry. There's cards and flyers on the back. I run our special needs registry. And yeah, and what that's for, it's for individuals with special needs. So when they get registered on this registry, so a loved one will typically register them. And it basically, they fill out a form, and this online form gives a whole bunch of information. It's the same type of forms that we use for our online reporting. And what that does is that populates what's called the names file in our system. So anybody that's been pulled over and has gotten a ticket, you already have a names file. And so we keep track of that stuff. But when you put on this registry, you fill out a bunch of information such as medical history, what sort of diagnoses they have, whether or not they're afraid of law enforcement, things of that nature. So that we know if they ever wander off and get lost, or we're responding to your address, we know how to respond appropriately, right? So if you have someone that flashing lights puts them into seizures, we can get that information beforehand so that we're not running up with lights going and sending someone into a medical emergency. It also works really well if you have loved ones with things such as autism that are known to wander away from home. Because we've had kids that wander off in the middle of the night and parents don't realize it yet, and they're nonverbal and they can't talk to us. If we have this information, these names files get populated and it gets sent to me, and I contact the individuals that are filling out the registry. And I go through line by line and we fill out a whole bunch of information. With that information, officers can actually go onto our system, our database, and we can type in the characteristics of that individual. So if they can't tell us who they are, we can say they're about this tall, they have blonde hair, blue eyes, those sort of characteristics, whether or not they have scars, whether or not they have identifying markers, things of that nature, right? If they wear glasses, and it'll populate everyone that fits that criteria within the city of Provo. And then also with the,
Does it take to shoot?
well,
For the nonverbals.
so we don't, I'll put this to rest.
Thank you.
The only time we ever use lethal force is if there is a threat of lethal force or serious injury against us or someone else. So that's kind of that's how the law works. That's what we're trained to do. So just because someone's nonverbal doesn't mean that we're going to be aggressive with them. Doesn't mean anything like that, right? We're bound by law and we're trained really well. I'm actually an autism instructor, so I teach the other officers about autism as well. And we go over things like that, right? Things such as de-escalation, that people might not listen to you, what cues to pick up on if they're not making eye contact and things like that, right? We're not going to be aggressive, right? We're not going to be anything like that with individuals and with any individual in general, right? If people aren't aggressive towards us, we're not aggressive towards them. But we can actually, like I was saying, we can look up these characteristics and there's photos that we can attach to it so that we can identify who this person is and get them back home even without someone noticing that they're gone. Yes.
I think this is great, and we talk about people with special needs. I think we should also think about highly functional adults who have bipolar disorder and flip out and do some really wild things.
Yeah. So so loved ones or even themselves are more than welcome to use the registry or contact us, and we're more than happy to put that information in their names file. We can do flags. So we have flags that will, when we're going to an address or dealing with an individual, it'll pop up and it'll say, hey, read this alert. And it'll say, this person either has vital medication, this person is known to do this. We have them for bad guys that are like known to be aggressive with law enforcement, things like that, so that we know. Or if there's an address where people don't like medics, they'll flag it and they'll send an officer along with the medics to that address. So we have ways to identify that so that we're aware of issues before we even get there. But the special needs registry is a great tool for that. So if you have someone that you believe fits with that, I encourage you to use it. If you're not sure or don't want to use the online registry, feel free to give me a call and I can fill it out over the phone as well. So, is there any other questions for me in general? Yeah.
So you're our officer for all of District 1, or so you're covering all our neighborhoods? And is there anyone else, or is it just you in our area?
So I'm the one that's specifically assigned to your area, but our team is comprised of 3 officers and 1 sergeant. And if one of us is gone and there's an issue or there's a big issue, you'll probably get most of us because we kind of work together as a team. Or if I'm gone for training, then another officer will step in and handle it. So we kind of work together as a team like that. But I'm your dedicated community resource officer. I'm typically your point of contact for that. So if you have an issue, feel free to email me or call my desk phone. If it's something that's happening right away and you need an immediate response, please call our non-emergency line or 911 because I'm not in the office all the time. If it's something that can wait, then shoot me an email. Yeah.
And you, I think you covered somewhat at the beginning of your conversation. Just help me remember. We live on Timpview, and as you get towards Foothills, I mean, people are flooring it. It is floored. We're at night, we can hear them going probably 80 to 90 miles per hour past our house. And it's what, 35 miles?
Yeah.
Speed zone 25.
Yeah. So we also, so like I said, if you have specific times at night or things like that, let me know so that I can coordinate that with our Graves crew or our traffic team. We also have an issue with people cutting off mufflers on their vehicles, right? We see a lot more of that since the emissions tests are now electronic. They found ways to kind of scoot past that. And it can make vehicles sound very loud and very quick, even if they're not. Even if they're going 5 miles an hour, it'll sound like they're doing about 120 here for 3 miles. So that's something else that we're working on enforcing. Like I said, if you have something that's reoccurring, let me know so we can start focusing on resources there. If anyone has any other questions or anything, feel free to use my card, reach out. I'm pretty easy to get a hold of, so. Thank you very much, Lee.
Thank you for.
All right, thank you for being here. I want to have some public comment, but let's focus it on things we haven't talked about tonight. If there's something that's already been on the agenda, you have ways of contacting Planning Commission, City Council, and getting your voice heard in additional ways. But if you come and you would like to express something new, including for something that you might want to see on our next agenda meeting, which is on July 16th. So we'll kind of pass the microphone around and give you 2 minutes. Right?
Try to talk fast.
Thank you.
I'm Jenny Smith, who's the Angela Maurer, we're 2 members of the we are 2 members of the Provo Agriculture Commission, which is under the supervisions of Sustainability Commission
which is
the mayor. We're working to preserve and encourage all kinds of agriculture all over Provo. A lot of people are like, agriculture in Provo, what are you talking about? But our roots, our history are deeply intertwined with agriculture. We were the garden city in the 1800s because of that soil and the farms. We still have that soil. We still have the people. We have more people than we've ever had before. So although most of us do not depend on growing things for our income, agriculture is thriving today all around us, feeding us, engaging us, and keeping us close to the earth we love. So what does urban agriculture look like in your neighborhood? I live in your neighborhood, okay, and we're full-time fruit growers. So, but Angela lives in a wonderful house down the street that has wonderful gardens in the back. Maybe you live near a small family farm or a commercial agriculture facility, but maybe agriculture in your neighborhood looks like a backyard garden, a grapevine trellis, a beehive, microgreens in your window, raised beds, and DIY chicken coop, container gardening on your balcony. It might be a cow pasture, it might be an herb plot. Whatever this looks like, this is ag in Provo. We're hoping that you will help the Provo Agriculture Commission connect to those practicing urban ag in your neighborhood. You're my neighborhood, so I understand that. We'd love to highlight them in our social media, encouraging others to enjoy greener thumbs and a better connection to the earth and have personal sustainability into the future. So we're asking you, if you have a neighbor, or if you are someone who's like, hey, I grow the greatest cucumbers in the world, or I've got this wonderful, grapevine in my backyard. I got a couple of trees that grandpa, planted and we're still growing fruit or whatever. We would like you to get that information to us so we can highlight as we're doing that, so people are aware of what's going on, both big and small, all over Provo, and help you, and we'll put some information about how to find the best resources so that people can do that. That's probably enough right now. I've got a little handout, and if you, oh, you got it right there, okay, they're in the back. And so if you say, hey, I know a neighbor does this, just send us their information, who they are, what they do, or send us the photos in your backyard. Hey, this is what I'm doing, information about what resources you use, or recommendations, or whatever. We would really appreciate that. We have social media right now. We're just on Instagram. We'll expand. It's ag.in.provo. You can email us your information right here. So, is that right? Did I say too much?
Oh, that's great. Okay, thanks, Jenny. Anybody else want to make a comment before we adjourn?
Okay, I just want to say, because I know it's super confusing to keep track of what items were going on what days and all of that. So I just wanted to make sure you know that on the Neighborhood District 1 webpage, this is on the provo.gov website. So here's your webpage. If you scroll down, this is the Neighborhood District 1 webpage. There's a section called What's Being Planned for Your Neighborhood. And here, let me make that a little bit bigger for you. Here you can see decisions that have been made, and it's grouped by neighborhood. So this Pleasant View neighborhood has a very small description. It has the contact information for the planner, and it has when people are talking about it. So we have our meeting tonight. We're talking about the April 23rd Planning Commission, the May City Council meeting. And so it has it there. So you can always go on that website.
And these are the email addresses to communicate with
Yes.
the representatives. So
Yes,
make sure
so
you're-
here's the Planning Commission email address, the City Council email address. And if there is a staff report, there's a link to the staff report where you can get more information. And so this is kind of your one-stop shop of planning items, so you know where to go and who to email and all of that.
Very good.
Yeah, thank you, Rachel.
Rachel's the best, just in case you hadn't known that yet. Anybody else want to comment before we adjourn?
Good to see you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for coming. July 16th at 6 o'clock, we'll be back here with this meeting, but if you have board members you can always talk to and refer, comment, and other things. Have a good night. Be safe.